Residential fixed term or month-to-month lease agreement. 1. Identification of landlord and tenants. This residential lease agreement, hereinafter lease agreement or lease to be used interchangeably, is entered into on, between insert your name here, manager of insert your company name here, as the authorized agent for the owner of the premises, hereinafter landlord, and, hereinafter collectively known as tenants. Each tenant is jointly and severally liable for the payment of rent and performance of all other terms of this lease agreement. Together tenants and landlord are referred to herein as the parties. 2. Identification of premises and occupants. Subject to the terms and conditions set forth in this lease agreement, landlord rents to tenants, and tenants rent from landlord, for residential purposes only, the premises located at, hereinafter premises, which is located within the apartment community, commonly known as, hereinafter the apartment community or property. The premises shall be occupied by the undersigned tenants. Name, print, date of birth, and the following minor children. Name, print, date of birth underscore 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 underscore. B. No other persons have permission to occupy the premises unless such permission is in writing and signed by landlord or its authorized agent. Landlord's acceptance of rent from any other individual shall be deemed to be the payment of rent on behalf of the tenants named above and shall not constitute permission for the person making the payment to occupy the premises. Should any person not named above make any claim to right of possession of the premises, any such person shall be deemed to be the guest or invitee of the named tenants and their claim to right of possession shall be denied. Any person who is not named above as a tenant and/or who is not a signatory to this lease shall be deemed to be invitees of the named tenants, who are signatories to this lease. Accordingly, if any such individual is not named in any unlawful detainer action to regain possession of the premises, and if any such individual thereafter makes a claim to right of possession of the premises, that claim shall be denied on the basis that said individual is the invitee of the named tenants and does not have an independent claim to right of possession of the premises. Page 1. Landlord initials. Tenants initials. C. In the event of an unlawful detainer action to regain possession of the premises, or any other legal/court document given to the above named tenants, the names listed above in paragraph 2a, are the names that will be used to refer to such individuals. The signing of this lease agreement constitutes full consent of tenants to legally refer to such individuals as the above signed names, even if after commencement of this lease agreement, one or more names change as a result of a marriage or legal name change, or at the time of signing, the signee simply used his/her maiden name instead of their married name, or vice versa. Tenants hereby renounces all legal authority by themselves or their legal appointees, to dismiss, or claim to be void, either in person, or in court, any legal document in their possession, on the basis of being referred to by any other names than the ones listed above in paragraph 2a. D. Tenants understands that in no event shall more than 2 persons per bedroom plus 1 additional person occupy the premises. If the household composition changes such that the number of occupants exceeds this occupancy standard, tenants agrees that such overutilization shall be grounds for landlord to terminate this lease agreement, solely at landlord's option. 3. Defining the term of the tenancy, the term of the lease agreement shall begin on commencement date. Month-to-month lease agreement, and continues as a month-to-month tenancy. Tenant may terminate the tenancy by giving written notice at least 30 days prior to the intended termination date. Landlord may terminate the tenancy by giving written notice as provided by law. Fixed-term lease agreement, and shall terminate on date, at 11:59 p.m. Tenant shall vacate the premises upon termination of the lease agreement, unless 1. Landlord and tenant have extended this lease agreement in writing or signed a new lease agreement, 2. Mandated by local rent control law, or 3. Landlord accepts rent from tenant after the expiration of the fixed-term lease, other than past due rent, in which case a month-to-month tenancy shall be created which either party may terminate. As specified in the above month-to-month statute. Rent shall be at a rate agreed to by landlord and tenant, or as allowed by law. All other terms and conditions of this lease agreement shall remain in full force and effect. A. Should tenants vacate before expiration of the term, tenants shall be liable for the balance of the rent for the remainder of the term, less any rent landlord collects or could have collected from a replacement tenant by reasonably attempting to re-rent. Tenants who vacate before expiration of the term are also responsible for landlord's costs of advertising for a replacement tenant. B. Holding over. Any holding over by tenants at the expiration of the lease term with the consent of landlord shall create a tenancy from month to month on the same terms and conditions set forth in this lease, subject to amendment by landlord as set forth in Civil Code Section 827, replace before mentioned with your state civil code, and terminable by either party on 30 days written notice in accordance with the provisions of California Civil Code Section 1946. Page 2. Landlord initials. Tenants initials. Replace before mentioned with your state civil code, unless a longer notice period is required by applicable law. For delay of possession, if, after signing this lease agreement, tenants fail to take possession of the premises, they shall still be responsible for paying rent and complying with all other terms of this lease agreement. In the event landlord is unable to deliver possession of the premises to tenants for any reason not within landlord's control, including, but not limited to, failure of prior occupants to vacate or partial or complete destruction of the premises, tenants shall have the right to terminate this lease agreement. In such event, landlord's liability to tenants shall be limited to the return of all sums previously paid by tenants to landlord. 5. Amount and schedule for the payment of rent. Tenants shall pay to landlord a monthly rent of $, payable in advance on the first day of each month. A. Rent shall be paid to insert your company name here via insert your company's preferred method to collect rent here. B. The name, telephone number, and address of the person or entity to whom rent payments shall be made is, insert your company name here, insert your company phone number here, insert your company street address here. C. Tenants acknowledges receipt of security deposit and monthly rent payment instructions addendum marketed attachment 1. Tenant's signature of this lease agreement constitutes amenable consent of the security deposit and monthly rent payment methods. 6. Security deposit. A. On signing this lease agreement, tenants shall pay to landlord the sum of $1 as a security deposit. Security deposit will be held in landlord trust account. B. Tenants may not apply this security deposit to the last month's rent or to any other sum due under this lease agreement. Within 21 days after tenants have vacated the premises, landlord shall furnish tenants with an itemized written statement of the reasons for, and the dollar amount of, any of the security deposit retained by the landlord, along with a check for any deposit balance. Under Section 1950.5 of the California Civil Code, replace before mentioned with your state civil code, landlord may withhold only that portion of tenants' security deposit necessary to 1. Remedy any default by tenants in the payment of rent, 2. Repair damages to the premises exclusive of ordinary wear and tear, and 3. Clean the premises if necessary. Per California law, landlord is not obligated to pay tenants interest on the security deposit. C. Security deposit will not be returned until all tenants have vacated the premises and all keys returned. Page 3. Landlord initials. Tenants initials. D. No interest will be paid on security deposit as not required by California law, replace before mentioned with your state civil code. E. If the security deposit is held by owner, tenant agrees not to hold broker responsible for its return. If the security deposit is held in owner's broker's, herein referred to as landlord, trust account, and broker's authority is terminated before expiration of this lease agreement, and security deposit is released back to owner, then broker shall notify tenant, in writing, where and to whom security deposit has been released. Once tenant has been provided such notice, tenant agrees not to hold broker responsible for the security deposit return, or subsequent deductions legality, if any. F. It is understood that the security deposit is applicable to all tenants jointly, and landlord does not account for it until the passing of the permissible statutory period after all tenants have vacated the premises. Any refund due may be made payable jointly to all tenants, and it shall be the responsibility of all tenants to work out between themselves the manner of dividing said security deposit. If landlord chooses to make the refund to any one of the tenants individually, which need not be done until the statutory time has elapsed after all tenants have vacated the premises, in legal contemplation the payment shall be deemed to have been made to all tenants, and landlord shall have no liability to any one or group of tenants for failure of any tenant to divide such refund equitably. G. If the security deposit is later increased by agreement of the parties for any reason, such as the installation of a satellite dish, a waterbed, or additional deposit for a pet, the additional security deposit will be disbursed by landlord in accordance with this paragraph at the end of the statutory period following the end of tenant's tenancy. Removal of the pet, satellite dish, waterbed, or whatever caused the increase in the deposit, will not be grounds for early disbursement of the security deposit. 7. Security deposit and first month's rent payment. Tenant acknowledges receipt of receipt and holding deposit agreement, addendum marketed attachment 2. Tenants confirms the accuracy of the money amounts listed therein. Tenants agrees to pay security deposit and first month's rent, either in whole or prorated, at, or reasonably near, time of signing this lease agreement. 8. Rules and regulations. Tenant agrees to comply with all landlord rules and regulations that are at any time posted on the premises or delivered to tenant. If checked, tenant has been provided with, and acknowledges receipt of, an additional, property-specific, list of the rules and regulations agreement addendum, labeled attachment 4, and attached to and incorporated into this lease agreement by reference. 9. Waterbeds/liquid furniture. No waterbed, water-filled furniture, aquariums over 10 gallons, or other water-filled furniture shall be kept on the premises without landlord's written consent. In the Page 4. Landlord initials. Tenant's initials. Event landlord's prior consent is granted, an additional security deposit, in the amount of landlord's discretion, will be added. None. Landlord grants tenants permission to keep water-filled furniture on the premises. Attachment 5 Agreement regarding use of waterbed/liquid furniture addendum is attached to and incorporated into this lease agreement by reference. 10 Attachments/addenda. Tenants acknowledges receipt of a copy of the attachments/addenda listed and checked in this section, which are incorporated into and made part of this lease. Tenants agrees to abide by said attachments/addenda in all respects. Any failure to comply with any of the attachments shall be deemed a breach of this lease. Security deposit and monthly rent payment instructions, Attachment 1. Receipt and holding deposit agreement, Attachment 2. Property of landlord or tenant agreement, Attachment 3. Rules and regulations agreement, Attachment 4. Waterbed/liquid furniture agreement, Attachment 5. 11 Rent payment late charges. Rent is due on the first day of each month and will be considered late if not received by midnight on the third day of each month, except when that day falls on a weekend or legal holiday, in which case rent is due on the next business day. The late charge shall be $25, plus $25 for each additional day that the rent continues to be unpaid. The total late charge for any 1 month shall not exceed $150. Landlord does not waive the right to insist on payment of the rent in full on the date it is due. 12 Returned check and other bank charges. In the event any check offered by tenants to landlord in payment of rent or any other amount due under this lease agreement is returned for lack of sufficient funds, a stop payment or any other reason, tenants shall pay landlord a returned check charge in the amount of $75. 13 Utilities. Tenants shall be responsible for payment of all utility charges, except for the following, which shall be paid by landlord. With respect to the utilities charges listed above to be paid by landlord, tenants shall not make excessive or unreasonable use of such utilities. If tenants does make excessive or unreasonable use of such utilities, landlord reserves the right to bill tenants for such excessive or unreasonable use, and said billing shall become due and payable, in full, as additional rent together with the regular monthly rental payment on the first day of the month next following the date of such billing. Tenants shall not use any utilities in the common areas of the property for their own personal use without written consent of landlord. Tenants' gas or electric meter serves areas outside of their premises, and there are not separate gas. Page 5. Landlord initials. Tenants' initials. And electric meters for tenants' unit and the areas outside their unit. Tenants and landlord agree as follows. 14. Limits on occupancy. Occupancy by guests for more than 10 days in any 6-month period is prohibited without landlord's written consent and shall be considered a breach of this lease agreement. 15. Residential use of premises. Tenants agrees that the premises is rented for residential use only and for no other purpose without landlord's prior written consent. Tenants shall not use the premises as a business address, nor shall tenants conduct business activities on the premises. Conducting business activities includes, without limitation, using the premises as a mailing address for a business enterprise, having a business telephone line in the premises, having business clients meet with tenants at the premises, assembling or manufacturing any product upon the premises, or otherwise holding out the premises as the address of any business. Tenants may, however, insofar as it is consistent with the restrictions set forth in this section, and with the written consent of landlord, use a portion of the premises as a home office. 16. Prohibition of assignment and subletting. Tenants shall not sublet any part of the premises or assign this lease agreement without the prior written consent of landlord. Any attempted subletting or assignment in violation of this provision shall be void and null. Any proposed assignee, transferee, or sublessee shall submit to landlord an application and credit information for landlord's approval and, if approved, sign a separate written agreement with landlord and tenant. Landlord's consent to any one assignment, transfer or sublease, shall not be construed as consent to any subsequent assignment, transfer or sublease and does not release tenant of tenant's obligations under this lease agreement. 17. Adding a roommate. No roommate may be allowed to take up residence in the premises without prior written consent of the landlord. Doing so without consent is in violation of this lease agreement. If landlord consent is granted, each tenant is jointly and severally liable for the payment of rent and performance of all other terms of this lease agreement. 18. Joint and several liability. Co-tenant. If more than one tenant, roommate, family member, or other, enters into this lease agreement, either now at lease commencement, or in the future as an addendum to this lease agreement, the obligations are joint and several. Each such tenant is individually, as well as jointly, liable for full performance of all agreed terms and payment of all sums required hereunder as long as any one of the tenants remain in possession of the premises. Any breach or abandonment by any one or more of the tenants shall not terminate the lease agreement nor shall it relieve the remaining tenant from fulfilling the terms of this lease agreement. Should one or more of the tenants terminate their residency apart and separately from other tenant, no right to have another person substituted in their stead shall exist. A. Tenants agree to inform landlord if any tenant, or residing minor, vacates residency of the premises. B. Written permission from landlord must be granted beforehand. Page 6. Landlord initials. Tenants' initials. Additional tenant, or minor, may be added to this lease agreement in order to take up residency of the premises. 19. Military transfer. If tenants is or becomes a member of the armed forces on extended active duty, a member of the State National Guard serving on full-time duty, or a civil service technician with a National Guard unit, and receives change of duty orders to depart from the local area for longer than 90 days, or is relieved from such duty, tenants may terminate this lease by giving 30 days prior written notice to landlord, provided tenants is not otherwise in default. As a condition to such termination, tenants will furnish landlord with a certified copy of the official orders which warrant termination of this lease. Military orders authorizing base housing in the local area in which the premises is located do not constitute change of duty under this paragraph. 20. Maintenance. Tenants shall properly use, operate, and safeguard premises, including if applicable, any landscaping, furniture, furnishings and appliances, and all mechanical, electrical, gas and plumbing fixtures, and keep them and the premises clean, sanitary, and well ventilated. Tenants shall be responsible for checking and maintaining all carbon monoxide and smoke detectors and any additional phone lines beyond the one line and jack that landlord shall provide and maintain. Tenants shall immediately notify landlord, in writing, of any problem, malfunction, or damage. Tenants shall be charged for all repairs or replacements caused by tenants, pets, guests or licensees of tenants, excluding ordinary wear and tear. Tenants shall be charged for all damage to premises as a result of failure to report a problem in a timely manner. Tenants shall be charged for repair of drain blockages or stoppages, unless caused by defective plumbing parts or tree roots invading sewer lines. A landlord-tenant shall water the garden, landscaping, trees and shrubs, except B. Landlord-tenants shall maintain the garden, landscaping, trees and shrubs, except C. Landlord-tenants shall maintain. D. Tenant's failure to maintain any item for which tenants is responsible shall give landlord the right to hire someone to perform such maintenance and charge tenants to cover the cost of such maintenance. E. The following items of personal property are included in the premises without warranty and landlord will not maintain, repair or replace them during residence tenancy. However, these items must stay on the premises in the working, or otherwise, condition in which they were at the time of tenant's move-in date. Removal or disposal of items is prohibited. Any such actions will warrant the landlord to make an estimate as to the fair market value of said items, and their cost for replacing will be deducted. Page 7. Landlord initials. Tenant's initials. From tenant's security deposit. 21. Condition of the premises. Tenants agree to 1. Keep the premises clean and sanitary and in good repair, and upon termination of the tenancy, to return the premises to landlord in a condition identical to that which existed when tenants took occupancy, except for ordinary wear and tear. 2. Immediately notify landlord of any defects or dangerous conditions in and about the premises of which they become aware, and 3. Reimburse landlord, on demand by landlord, for the cost of any repairs to the premises damaged by tenants or their guests or invitees through misuse or neglect. A. Tenants acknowledge that when landlord and tenants meet at the premises to transfer possession of the keys and property, on or before the agreed-upon move-in date, with the landlord-furnished move-in inspection checklist in hand, both landlord and tenant will inspect the property, and make note of any notable defects, problems, or issues. Furthermore, tenants acknowledges that they have 3 days, 72 hours, to contact landlord in order to make record of any additional issues in the premises the tenants may have discovered. 22. Keys, locks, and remotes. A tenant shall receive the following prior to the move-in date. Tenant shall make amenable efforts to schedule a time with landlord to meet at the premises in order to transfer possession of the premises, keys, and remotes. Keys to premises. Keys to mailbox. Keys to pool. Keys to common areas. Remotes for garage door. Remotes for security gate. B. If tenants rekey existing locks or opening devices, tenants shall immediately deliver copies of all keys to landlord. Tenants shall pay all costs and charges related to loss of any keys or opening devices. Tenants may not remove locks, even if installed by tenants. 23. Pets. No pets, including but not limited to any animal, bird, fowl, reptile, or amphibian, and no aquariums in excess of 10 gallons, collectively referred to hereafter as pets, are allowed on the premises without prior written consent of landlord. Any such consent may be revoked at any time, with or without cause, by giving a 30-day written notice. Unless written permission has been given, pets may not be brought upon the premises, whether such pets belong to tenants or to any other person. The presence of any pets as to which written permission has not been given and is not currently in force, even if such pets are just visiting, shall be deemed a material and incurable breach of this lease and shall be cause for the service of a 3-day notice terminating the tenancy. This policy does not apply to accommodation or. Page 8. Landlord initials. Tenants initials. Service animals. A disabled individual who requires an animal in order to be able to use and enjoy the premises or the property should contact landlord, before bringing the animal onto the premises, and request an accommodation to this lease provision. All accommodation requests will be processed in accordance with applicable laws. None. Under the following conditions. 24. Landlord's access to premises. A. The parties agree that upon advance reasonable notice of at least 24 hours to tenants, and at least 48 hours notice to conduct an inspection of the premises, landlord or landlord's agents shall have the right to enter the premises during normal business hours of Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the purpose of 1. Making desired, necessary or agreed repairs, decorations, alterations, improvements, or renovations to the premises, to an adjacent unit or for the benefit of the building in which the premises is located. 2. Supplying necessary or agreed services. 3. Showing the unit to prospective or actual purchasers, mortgagees, tenants, workmen, or contractors, or 4. For any other purposes permitted by California Civil Code Section 1954, replace before mentioned with your state civil code, and any other applicable statutes or amendments which might be enacted subsequent to the execution of this lease. B. Tenants also agrees that if tenants denies landlord access to the premises when landlord is in compliance with statutory requirements and entitled to access, any such denial of access shall be deemed a material and incurable breach of this lease and shall entitle landlord to serve tenants with a 3-day notice to quit. C. In the event of an emergency, such as a fire, plumbing leak, etc., or tenant's abandonment or surrender of the premises, landlord or its agents may enter the premises at any time without consent or prior notice. D. With at least 48-hour notice, tenant hereby grants landlord, or landlord agents, interior and exterior access to the premises, for the purpose of periodic maintenance inspections. Upon lease signing, tenant grants willful consent for the following periodic inspections. 3 months from tenant's move-in date, an interior and exterior inspection of the premises will be performed. After which, landlord will perform an interior inspection at 12-month intervals, and an exterior inspection at 6-month intervals. If at any time it appears tenants is not taking good care of the property, then landlord reserves the right to increase, both interior and exterior, inspection interval to every 3 months until such time as the premises upkeep is brought back up to an acceptable standard. If the minimum standard of care for the property is not continually met, even after necessary written warnings, then a subsequent 30-day notice will be given to the residing tenants. Refusal of these terms, either now at lease signing, or in the future during tenancy, is in direct violation of this lease, and if currently. Page 9. Landlord initials. Tenant's initials. Residing in the premises will result in a 3-day notice to perform covenant. Additionally, if these terms are not agreeable to you at time of signing, then it is encouraged that you do not sign this lease. Tenants will be given the option to be present for inspections, but do not have to be. Tenant does not wish to be present for periodic inspections. 48-hour notice will still be given, but landlord's estimated time of arrival will not be given. Tenant wishes to be present for periodic inspections. If tenants prefer to be present, then landlord will make every reasonable attempt to make it so, by giving tenants an agreed upon expected window time of landlord's arrival. If tenants is a no-show during the window time, then landlord may enter without tenant's presence. 25 Signs. Tenant authorizes landlord to place for sale/lease signs on the premises. 26 Parking and garages. A. Parking spaces are to be used for parking properly licensed and operable motor vehicles. Parking spaces are not to be used for trailers, boats, campers, buses, or trucks, other than pickup trucks. Tenants shall park in assigned spaces only. Parking spaces are to be kept clean. Vehicles leaking oil, gas, or other motor vehicle fluids shall not be parked on the premises. Mechanical work or storage of inoperable vehicles is not permitted in parking spaces or elsewhere on the premises. B. Garages are primarily to be used for means of parking cars and storage. Garages are not to be used as additional living, job-related work, or frequent social gathering spaces. C. Landlord shall not be liable for any damage or loss to motor vehicles of, or the contents of motor vehicles of, tenants and/or tenants' guests or invitees. Failure of tenants or tenants' guests or invitees to follow rules and/or posted signs relating to parking and operation of vehicles may result in the towing of the offending vehicle at the cost of the vehicle owner. Additional property-specific provisions regarding parking, garages, and tenants' cars are 27. Extended absences by tenants. Tenants agree to notify landlord in the event that they will be away from the premises for 10 consecutive days or more. During such absence, landlord may enter the premises at times reasonably necessary to maintain the property and inspect for damage and needed repairs. 28. Prohibitions against violating laws and causing disturbances. Tenants shall be entitled to quiet enjoyment of the premises. Tenants and their guests or invitees shall not use the premises or adjacent areas in such a way as to 1. Violate any law or ordinance, including laws prohibiting. Page 10. Landlord initials. Tenants' initials. The use, possession, or sale of illegal drugs. 2. Commit waste or nuisance, or 3. Annoy, disturb, inconvenience or interfere with the quiet enjoyment and peace and quiet of any other tenant or nearby resident, including but not limited to having loud or late parties or playing loud music. Tenants shall ensure that their guests also comply with this provision. Violations constitute a breach of the lease agreement. 29. Condominium, planned unit development. The premises is a unit in a condominium, planned unit development, common interest subdivision, or other development governed by a homeowner association, HOA. The name of the HOA is. Tenants agrees to comply with all HOA covenants, conditions, and restrictions, bylaws, rules and regulations and decisions, HOA rules. Landlord shall provide tenants copies of HOA rules, if any. Tenants shall reimburse landlord for any fines or charges imposed by HOA or other authorities, due to any violation by tenants, or the guests or licensees of tenants. Not applicable, N/A. Landlord shall provide tenant with a copy of the HOA rules within days, or tenants has been provided with, and acknowledges receipt of, a copy of the HOA rules. 30. Repairs and alterations, except as provided by law or as authorized by the prior written consent of landlord. A. Tenants shall not make any repairs or alterations or improvements in or about the premises including, painting, wallpapering, adding or changing locks, installing antenna or satellite dish, e.s. placing signs, displays or exhibits, or using screws, fastening devices, large nails or adhesive materials. B. Landlord shall not be responsible for the costs of alterations or repairs made by tenants. C. Tenants shall not deduct from rent the costs of any repairs, alterations, or improvements, and D. Any deduction made by tenants shall be considered unpaid rent. E. Tenants shall not, without landlord's prior written consent, alter, rekey or install any locks to the premises or install or alter any burglar alarm system. Tenants shall provide landlord with a key or keys capable of unlocking all such rekeyed or new locks as well as instructions on how to disarm any altered or new burglar alarm system. None. Landlord and tenants agree to the following. Free preview and purchase required to gain total access. Visit www.propmanagementforms.com to purchase Property Management Forms package. Page 11. Landlord initials. Tenants initials.